Hello, and welcome to the Girl Horror Podcast. My name is Alice, and I have a lot to say about cinema that crosses the intersection between girlhood and horror. Today, you have stepped into the Dance Academy of Nightmares. Let me show you around. As I walk you through the building, we'll be stopping in various rooms so you can get a feel of the place. In our entrance hall, I'll be taking you through a brief summary of the two films we're showcasing here today and discussing what dance horror really is. As we head down the long and snaking staircase, I'll be taking you through the historical context of the films and where they sit in horror cinema generally. We're all about respecting our heritage here, as you will learn. That means looking at what influenced these films in the first place. As we reach the studios upstairs, you'll notice that each room is focused on a central theme of the film, with an immersive demonstration for your pleasure. In our performance space, you'll see our central characters doing a private performance of their key scenes just for you. They don't bite, I promise. Behind the stage, we have a space dedicated to what goes on behind the camera. We love our dancers, but there's so much that goes on behind the curtain that allows their performances to be so enchanting. Finally, for the tour finale, we will bring you down to the Academy basement, where we have a special surprise for you as we discuss the legacy and impact of these films. Totally innocent, I promise. Definitely nothing scary to see down there. So, if you're ready, I'd like to ask you to mentally buckle up, lace up your point shoes, and come with me on this tour of the Academy as we dive into the bone-cracking pain of pursuing perfection in Black Swan and Suspiria. As we explore the delights of the Dance Academy.
Maestro, audio scoda, please. Now show me your Black Swan, Nina.
As you come into the entrance hall of the Academy, you'll see we're discussing Black Swan and Suspiria today. As we're technically talking about three films, I want to give you a brief overview of each of them to make sure we're all starting on the same page. First, let's talk about Black Swan from 2010.
I had the craziest dream last night about a girl who was turned into a swan, but her prince falls for the wrong girl and she kills herself. He promised to feature me more this season.
Well, he should. You've been there long enough. And you're the most dedicated dancer in the company.
Our new Swan Queen, the exquisite Nina Sayers.
Directed by Darren Aronofsky, this film takes us deep into the cutthroat world of ballet, where ambition and obsession intertwine in a haunting dance. The film follows Nina Sayers, played by Natalie Portman, a perfectionist ballerina whose drive to embody both the innocent white swan and the seductive black swan in Swan Lake leads her down a path of psychological turmoil. As she struggles with the two roles, she faces fierce competition from Lily, played by Mila Kunis, and spirals into hallucinatory nightmares. The film's chilling exploration of identity, pressure, and the dark side of artistic perfection makes it a quintessential contender in the Girl Horror Hall of Fame. But where did films like Black Swan come from?
The only thing more terrifying than the last 12 minutes of Suspiria are the first 92.
Well, if we go back to 1977, we find ourselves getting to know Susie Bannion from the original Suspiria. Directed by Dario Argento, this film is a visually stunning and surreal story set in a prestigious dance academy in Germany. The story follows American ballet student Susie, who arrives at the Dance Academy only to uncover that the school is a front for something far more sinister. The academy is controlled by a coven of witches, with whom Susie finds herself ensnared. The original Suspiria is known for its vivid colours, eerie score, and nightmare atmosphere, and is no doubt the dance horror film, combining elements of witchcraft with mysterious supernatural themes. Of course, films like Black Swan would come from a cornerstone film as good as this one. Now, let's fast forward to 2018, where Luca Guadagnino's remake of Suspiria offers a fresh yet equally unsettling take on the classic horror film.
When you dance the dance of another, You make yourself in the image of its creator.
I feel like I'm not even here yet.
Madame Blanc's incredible.
1, 2, 3.
The way she transmits her work.
You have to decide, what is it you want to be for this company?
There's more in that building than what you can see, Doctor.
This reinterpretation is set in the same haunting dance academy, but it delves deeper into the political and psychological undercurrents of its time, set against the backdrop of 1977 Berlin, a city fraught with tension and unrest. Dakota Johnson stars as Susie Bannion, an American dancer who quickly rises to prominence under the watchful eye of the Academy's enigmatic artistic director, Madam Blanc. Unlike the original, Guadagnino's version expands the narrative, introducing subplots that explore themes of maternal power, rebellion, and the dark allure of the occult. The remake's muted colour palette and Tom Yorke's haunting score create a different but equally immersive atmosphere, making it a compelling companion to Argento's vibrant and chaotic original. Guadagnino's Suspiria doesn't just pay homage to its predecessor, it reimagines it, offering a deeper and more complex narrative that challenges viewers to look beyond the surface and confront the darkness within. The next section of our tour takes us to the second half of the entrance hall and encourages us to ask the question, what really is dance horror? As the name suggests, this subgenre is a unique blend of performing art and horror cinema. Dance horror leverages physicality, discipline, and obsession to amplify its horror elements. At its core, dance horror taps into the dark undercurrents of ambition, identity, and the relentless pursuit of perfection that can be seen in the world of dance, but also more abstractly in our everyday lives. To really understand dance horror, we need to put it in context. Historically, horror films have reflected societal anxiety. Whether that's gothic horror in the 1930s looking at the supernatural and monstrous, or the slashers of the 1980s that focused on the unknown and unstoppable killer, horror has always been a mirror to our darkest fears. Dance horror carves out a unique niche that combines the elegance and beauty of dance with the grotesque and unsettling elements of horror. This juxtaposition creates a jarring experience for audiences. Nina Sayers in her perfect makeup and slicked back bun, white feathers and a point shoe, dripping blood from an open wound. You get the drift. The discipline and dedication required in dance becomes a fertile ground for psychological and physical horror to be explored. Dance horror works so well because dancers are vulnerable. Their bodies are instruments that are constantly being pushed to their limits. The line between discipline and obsession are thin in the dance world, and that makes it the perfect place to explore horror. A dancer's vulnerability makes them the perfect vehicle to look at bodily autonomy, transformation, and loss of control.
What's going on?
Lily, you made her my alternate.
Well, there's always an alternate. Lily's the best choice.
No, but she wants my role.
Every dancer in the world wants your role.
No, this is different. She's after me. She's trying to replace me.
Nobody's after you.
No, please believe me.
Equally, dance is all about expressive storytelling. It allows filmmakers to convey complex emotions and themes without even using dialogue. Relying on movement to drive narrative is, to me, truly fascinating, and there are not many genres that are afforded this playground. It can create a visceral and immersive experience that draws us into the dancer's torment and transformation. Now that we've taken our tour through the entrance hall of the Academy, I would like to invite you to join me as we ascend our famous spiral staircase, which tells us about the context and background of these films. Please do mind your step. These stairs are very old and we don't want any injuries. The original Suspiria film premiered in 1977, a year that sits at a fascinating intersection in the history of cinema and culture. The 70s were a transformative decade for film, marked by a rise in auteur-driven projects and the emergence of new genres that pushed the boundaries of storytelling and visual style. At the forefront of this cinematic revolution was the Italian giallo genre. This style of filmmaking combined elements of horror, thriller, and mystery, and is characterised by its intricate plots, graphic violence, and striking visual aesthetics. Dario Argento is often hailed as the master of this genre, already known for earlier works like The Bird with the Crystal Plumage and Deep Red.
You have killed, and you will kill again.
The murderer is a schizophrenic paranoid. Anyone who kills with such frenzy surely does it in a state of temporary madness.
Suspiria was a significant departure from Argento's previous films, embracing a more supernatural narrative while still retaining the style trademarks that had become his signature. Sitting in the history of horror cinema itself, Suspiria represented a real bridge between the psychological horror of the 60s and the slasher films that would come about soon after in the 80s. The culture and political landscape behind the film's release is vital to its success. The film was released in a period of social upheaval in Italy, known as the Years of Lead, which were marked by political extremism, terrorism, and social unrest. The Years of Lead is a term that derives from the large number of lead bullets used in numerous violent incidents, including assassinations, bombings, and street clashes at the time.
Today, again, Italy has inflation, unemployment, and an impotent government, political terrorism, and street violence.
Robin, Italy's current political crisis is taking place alongside a wave of terrorism that has turned the streets of Italy's cities into battlegrounds. Riots, lootings, bomb explosions, kidnappings, and assassination have almost become daily events. The violence and the killing is the work of extremist political groups, mostly of the left, but also of the right, and splinter groups from all directions. 115 of such groups have been identified so far. The violence and unrest is occurring at a time of high unemployment and inflation.
During the 1970s, Italy was a nation grappling with the after effects of rapid post-war industrialization, economic disparity, and social upheaval. The political landscape was truly polarized between far-left and far-right ideologies, which led to a volatile environment where extremist groups on both sides took to acts of terrorism and sabotage. The anxiety this produced permeated much of Italian cinema at the time, and Argento's work is no exception. Italian filmmakers reflected the chaos and paranoia of their surroundings in their work. Many have suggested The Witch's Coven work as a metaphor to represent the unseen forces and conspiracies that many Italians believed were manipulating society from the shadows.
She had discovered that the Tam Academy was founded in 1895 by a certain Helena Marcos, a Greek immigrant, and that the local people believed her to be a witch.
But what does it mean to be a witch?
The 70s were also a pivotal time for feminism in Italy, with women fighting for rights and recognition in a culture that had long confined them to domestic and subordinate roles. Inspired by movements from the US, France, and other parts of Europe, Italian women began to organise and mobilise to demand changes in law and societal norms. There were a few very significant moments in the feminist lives of Italian women in the 70s, including the legalisation of divorce in 1970, a shock for a predominantly Catholic country, as well as the legalisation of abortion in 1978. These moments can be said to have influenced the shift in portrayal of women in film at the time. Susie Bannion takes an assertive role in her own story as she uncovers and confronts the sinister forces at the dance academy. And I think it's important that the road is muddy for her, because especially at the time, it was not easy for a woman to be autonomous or speak out.
Brittany just grabbed the umbrella, started coming after me, and starts beating the passenger side of my truck.
So we've looked at where Suspiria and the start of dance horror came from. Now let's fast forward to 2010, when Darren Aronofsky's Black Swan premiered. The late 2000s and early 2010s were a fascinating period for film. Psychological thrillers were making a comeback, and there was a growing interest in character-driven narratives that explored the complexities of the human mind. Black Swan's director was already known for his distinctive visual style and willingness to tackle challenging and unsettling subject matter. Cough, cough, Requiem for a Dream. This was also a time where people were starting to discuss mental health more seriously. The psychological impact of professional pressure was clear from the many celebrities who'd gone off the rails from the pressure of being child actors. There was a heightened awareness for the stresses faced by individuals striving for success in these fields.
It's a similar story for Lindsay Lohan. As she grew up in the spotlight, her life took a wild turn that would rival any Hollywood script. She found herself caught in the whirlwind of addiction and legal troubles. Lohan's battle with addiction became a tabloid sensation, with headlines screaming about her arrests, rehab stints, and struggles with alcohol and drugs. Her once promising career was overshadowed by the constant buzz of controversy, and her personal struggles were splashed across every gossip magazine and celebrity news outlet.
This was also a transformative time globally, full of economic upheaval, technological advancement, and evolving social norms. With the global financial crisis of 2008 in tow, the anxiety and paranoia of the general population of the West was extremely high in this moment. This economic instability had a huge impact on culture and art, with films from this time often reflecting that sense of crisis and the struggle of individuals facing insurmountable pressures outside their control. Equally, this time sees the real takeoff of digital technology, the internet and social media, which transformed how people interacted, consumed media, and shared information.
People want to go on the internet and check out their friends, so why not build a website that offers that? Friends, pictures, profiles. I'm talking about taking the entire social experience of college and putting it online.
The site got 2,200 hits within 2 hours.
22,000.
This new era of connectivity introduced new forms of stress and scrutiny to people's lives, especially young people.
Is this necessary?
Go change.
Awful. No, that is not cute.
Yeah, go on. I need someone to make me laugh.
Where's Kim?
Kim is always late.
Here. Get out of our way. Stop. Jealous.
Enough. Stop.
Enough.
That's it, we're done.
Money.
The pressure to maintain a perfect online persona was really born in this era, and that's why films like Black Swan still hit as hard today as they did at the time. While clearly inspired by films like Argento's 77 Suspiria, Black Swan is truly a product of its time, featuring strong female characters delving into the pressures and challenges faced by women in the pursuit of their goals. Looking at Black Swan in between the two Suspiria films is fascinating to me, as I think all three of these films build on each other perfectly to represent the context in which they came about. 8 years on from the release of Black Swan, director Luca Guadagnino comes out with the Suspiria remake that builds on the original and is heavily influenced by the cultural, societal and political currents of the 2010s. This decade is marked by the impact of the Me Too era, which began in 2017 and gained huge momentum across the world. The movement brought widespread attention to issues of sexual harassment, assault and the systemic abuse of power in the workplace. It led to a reckoning in the entertainment industry, with many powerful figures being called out for misconduct.
Seducers! Attack it! Attack it! Come on!
Where'd you get these?
It's nothing.
You sweet girl.
Feel my touch. Respond to it.
Someone's hot for teacher.
I don't want to talk about that.
You really need to relax.
Black Swan very obviously addresses the misuse of power between Nina and her mentor, and I think the Suspiria remake capitalised on the momentum of the Me Too movement to bring this conversation back to the forefront of our minds. The witches in the film are powerful, but they operate within a strict hierarchy and are involved in dark manipulative practices that echo the complexities of the power structures being scrutinised by society at the time. There is also a strong political overtone to the film. Set in 1970s Berlin, the backdrop of this story is the Cold War. Its choice of setting reflects a world grappling with its past and present turmoil, something that found its echo in the political climate of the 2010s. During this decade, many countries experienced a rise in political polarisation, the resurgence of far-right movements, and intense debates of national identity and historical memory. In horror, the 2010s saw the resurgence of interest in horror films that went beyond cheap scares and predictable tropes. Elevated horrors like Get Out and Hereditary used horror to comment on social issues instead. Suspiria fits well within this movement, using a horror framework to explore guilt, repression, and the destructive cycles of history. The 2010s were a decade of profound cultural and political shifts, many of which we all remember happening. These events deeply influenced the Suspiria remake and made it a film that brings an old classic into a new and haunting spotlight for audiences today. So what were the inspirations for these films in the first place, other than the context in which they were made? We'll learn here about influences and inspirations as we travel the last section of the staircase and prepare to enjoy the studio rooms and the performance spaces upstairs. One of the most significant inspirations for Suspiria is said to be the work of English essayist and poet Thomas de Quincey, specifically his collection Suspiria de Profundis from 1845. Argento drew particularly from the essay Levana and Our Ladies of Sorrow, which described three sorrows: Our Lady of Tears, Our Lady of Sighs, and Our Lady of Darkness. These figures inspired the creation of the witches' mythology in Suspiria. Looking at Black Swan, it's pretty obvious where the inspiration lies. Tchaikovsky's ballet Swan Lake serves as a thematic framework for the whole of this film, but it has been mixed with inspiration from several other films that Aronofsky has cited, like Roman Polanski's Repulsion from 1965 and The Tenant from 1976.
Beautiful, desirable. Men found her irresistible, but something is happening to her. Something that she doesn't quite understand. And soon she will be swept up in a frantic fury of repulsion.
Similarly, David Cronenberg's transformative body horror The Fly from 1986 likely had an influence on the visceral and unsettling transformation of Nina into the Black Swan.
Those weird hairs that were growing out of your back, I had them analyzed, but they were definitely not human.
It could also be argued that Black Swan comes from the doppelganger motif, which is rooted in Gothic literature and German Romanticism, exploring the idea of a character encountering their own mirror image or darker self. If you know any of Jung's psychology, then you'll see parallels quite clearly here. While the story for the Suspiria remake is clearly inspired by the original 1977 film, there are some influences to the remake that were new and innovative. The Suspiria remake pays homage to German expressionist cinema, known for its stark contrasts, dramatic lighting, and distorted perspectives to convey psychological unease and emotional turmoil. Films like The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari from 1920 and Nosferatu from 1922 come to mind in terms of visual style and emphasis on atmospheric setting. Equally, the remake brings in inspiration from the Bauhaus movement. Think geometric forms, minimalist design, and the integration of art with daily life. You can see from all these inspirations that while dance horror feels like a very niche subgenre of horror, it's able to encompass a huge amount of meaning and value in its specificity. I've spent a long time going through history, context, and inspirations for these three films because I think it's important to understand where they come from. Yes, you can watch them and enjoy them without this information, but I'd recommend a rewatch with these things in mind, because I think you'll find completely new meanings and layers to the messages and symbolism that might first make more sense, and second, have more impact with these things in mind. Going forward, I want to focus on Black Swan from 2010 and the Suspiria remake from 2018. This is mostly because of time, but also because I think the two are far more comparable in theme and message, as well as their contribution to the girl horror genre as a whole. So, how do these films explore the themes of girl horror, and why do we feel so drawn into the world of the Dance Academy, whether or not we've set foot in one ourselves? As we've reached the landing of the upper floor, let's explore our studio practice rooms, which in turn discuss themes. In our first room, we'll be discussing the physical pain that comes with the pursuit of perfection. The known damage of the dance world is used in these films as a vehicle to portray the painful transformation that can happen to a woman who is desperate to succeed in the eyes of those around her, but also to herself. Both Nina and Susie demonstrate the huge physical toll and psychological trauma that can come from this deep-seated obsession with perfection, with winning, with coming out on top. In Black Swan, Nina's drive for perfection is rooted in her psychological makeup, influenced by her overbearing mother and the high-pressure environment of professional ballet. Her desire to embody the dual roles of the white and black swan perfectly leads her to push beyond her limits until she eventually cracks. The swan characters perfectly represent the split in her psyche. Her journey towards perfection requires her to embrace the darker sides of her personality, the black swan within. In her pursuit of this perfection, Nina experiences hallucinations of her skin tearing and sharp feathers brutally pushing themselves out from under the surface. This image of her transforming into the black swan also represents the physical toll that her torment has taken on her body. These transformational moments of body horror in Nina's journey supplement the clear mental pain she is enduring and reflects the physical manifestation of her obsession for perfection. Ballet itself is depicted as physically punishing. It requires a rigorous training regime. It will injure and maim you and cause you physical and mental pain.
At the beginning, she gave me things. Perfect balance, perfect sleep. Oh, she wants to get inside of me. I can feel her. Oh, she can see me.
Madame Blanc's incredible.
1, 2, 3.
The way she transmits her work.
You have to decide, what is it you want to be for this company?
There's more in that building than what you can see, Doctor.
In Suspiria, we see a similar atmosphere of pressure from the dance academy. The academy is a place where perfection, and only perfection, is pursued. It happens almost with a religious fervour, with the mentor witches using dance to train the girls, but also to exert control on them. The idea of perfecting the dance routine creates a mirror symbol of becoming the perfect member of the academy itself, and thus what the Coven are looking to create of their girls. In the 2018 version, Susie's journey also reflects a deeper pursuit of a metaphysical perfection, as she discovers her true identity and power within the Coven. The film intertwines her rise as a dancer with her ascension to a higher supernatural plane, merging the quest for artistic perfection with spiritual transcendence. On the flip side of this spiritual ascension to perfection, Suspiria is a hugely graphic movie in its depiction of the body horror that comes with its pursuit. In both versions, dancers suffer from grotesque injuries that are both a result of their rigorous training and the malevolent influence of the witches themselves. The reason I love the 2018 film so much is for its horrific showcase of dancers' bodies being contorted and broken in supernatural rituals, which really starkly demonstrate the physical pain in the pursuit of perfection. Obviously, these are very extreme examples, but to be honest, I think every woman has felt the physical impact of putting your whole chest into being the best at something. I'm not saying the pursuit of success is a bad thing, but I think women are particularly encouraged to be in competition with each other for an unattainable perfection. I also think this film highlights some parts of the dance industry that should be spoken about. Ballet dancers undergo grueling training from a very young age, and often practice for several hours a day on top of school. The physical strength and also extraordinary discipline and resilience needed to be a dancer makes it the perfect topic for a film that plays with what happens when things go too far and crack under pressure. Equally, dancers are known for constantly getting injured with stress fractures, tendinitis, and ligament damage. The things shown in these films are not made out of nothing, but based on stories from very real life experiences that many have endured.
What it felt like was just being bullied on a daily basis.
The ballet world is a brutal place.
It is a culture of silence, a culture of not breaking ranks. There is something cultish about it. I cannot avoid that word.
Nobody should be spoken to in a way that makes them walk away feeling worthless.
In our penultimate studio room, you'll notice that every wall is covered in mirrors. These are useful for students to observe themselves dancing for practice purposes, and are definitely not ever used as a form of psychological torture or to trap our dancers in the academy until we find our use for them. I'm sorry, what was I saying? The mirror symbol is used as a symbol to reflect fragmented psyche and struggle with identity in Black Swan. In Suspiria, mirrors and reflective surfaces often signal shifts in perception and reality, pushing that feeling of a surreal atmosphere, and also, I think, opening up the idea that in the halls of the academy, you will never have your back safely against the wall. As the 360 mirror studios show, you're always in the centre of the room and being watched from all angles.
Stop. How about I dance the Black Swan for you? Leave me alone!
It's my turn! My turn! My turn! It's my turn!
Finally, before we head into the performance theatre, our last studio room looks at the role of women in the arts, and how these films in particular demonstrate a big message about mentors and mentees. Both films explore the dynamic between a mentor and a mentee. In Black Swan, the relationship between Nina and her director Thomas is complex and clearly manipulative. In Suspiria, the mentorship of Madame Blanc and the general relationships between the students and the witches are fraught with manipulation and control. Both films look at the intensity of relationships within a female-dominated community, both in terms of support, but also in terms of rivalry. Nina's interactions with her fellow dancers, especially her soon-to-be understudy Lily, are marked by competitiveness and suspicion. In Suspiria, the interactions among the students and coven members go on to reveal a web of alliances and betrayals. If, like me, you've ever been to an all-girls school, or any girl-only space, you'll know that this is not far from the truth in terms of the tension and general paranoia that can grow in those environments. And now, without further ado, please continue down the corridor where you'll be greeted by our star cast, Nina, Susie, and the marvellous Madame Blanc. There is a purity to the white swan, a delicate innocence that dances with fragility. It's who I've always been, who I was trained to be, graceful, perfect, obedient. But within the same body, there's also the black swan, an embodiment of darker passions, seduction, and raw, untamed energy. Two swans, two halves of my soul, locked together in a battle for dominance. I am Nina, and welcome to the Performance Theatre. In the mirror, I see them both staring back at me. Innocent white feathers slowly darkening, transforming. The dance demands both of me, the light and the dark, and it's tearing me apart. Each pirouette, each leap brings me closer to the edge, to the realization that perfection isn't just about precision like I thought it was. It's about embracing the chaos, the fear, the desire that lies beneath the surface. My obsession with perfection is a double-edged sword. It pushes me to practice until my feet bleed, to push myself beyond extreme, to sacrifice my sanity for the bliss of that fleeting applause. But in that relentless pursuit, I'm losing myself. Or perhaps I'm finding a self I never knew existed. I feel the black swan's feathers sprouting under my skin, sharp and cold, a reminder of the metamorphosis I'm undergoing. Each rehearsal strips away another layer of my innocence, revealing the darkness underneath. The pain, the hallucinations, the madness. They're all part of the transformation, a rite of passage in becoming something more, something otherworldly. In my mind, the lines between reality and illusion blur. Am I Nina, the fragile dancer striving for the impossible? Or am I the Black Swan, powerful and free, dancing to the rhythm of my deepest fears and darkest desires? The stage lights you can see blind me, and for a moment I am both, swirling in a dance of duality of life and death, of creation and destruction. The feathers, the swan, they're not just symbols, they're the manifestation of my struggle, my journey from innocence to experience, from fragility to strength. They are my transformation, my breakdown, and my ultimate rise. As I take my final bow, I am no longer just the white swan or the black swan. I am the embodiment of both, a creature of grace and darkness, fragility and fierce. And in that moment of perfect duality, I am free. My name is Susie. When I first arrived at the dance academy, I felt like a blank canvas ready to be moulded, painted, and brought to life. The elegance and precision of the dancers around me were mesmerizing, and I longed to embody that same grace, that same power myself. But beneath the surface of their beauty lay a darkness that I could not yet comprehend. My mentor is a figure of inspiration, but also of terror. Her presence commands the room, her gaze piercing through the facade of confidence we all wear. There's a fear that coils in my stomach whenever she is near, a fear of judgment, her expectations, and the secrets she guards so closely. The dance here is more than just movement. It's a ritual, a calling that demands more than just physical prowess. It requires surrender of the self, a willingness to be consumed by something greater, something ancient and powerful. In the beginning, I thought I understood this sacrifice, but I was wrong. As I immersed myself in the choreography of this great dance school, I felt a change within me. Each step, each gesture brought me closer to an unknown force, a dark energy that pulses through the academy walls. The duality of my existence became clear. Susie, the innocent girl, and Susie, the vessel for something more profound. Madame Blanc, who you'll meet soon, sees this duality in me. She cultivates it and pushes me to embrace it. Her teachings are filled with both tenderness and cruelty, a reflection of the dual nature of the art we practice, I suppose. The fear she instills is not just of her, but of what I might become under her guidance. I think the other dancers sense it too, the transformation, the metamorphosis. They whisper about the power that flows through this academy you've set foot in, the rituals that bind us together. The fear of Madame Blanc is intertwined with a deeper fear of losing ourselves, of becoming something unrecognizable. I can feel the change in my body, in my soul. The dance is no longer just an expression, it's a conduit for something ancient and powerful, something that seeks to reshape me from within. I am both the creator and the creation, the dancer and the dance. In this crucible of terror, I will emerge as a new being, embracing the dark and the light. Or be consumed by the forces that seek to shape me. Thank you, Nina and Susie, for your insightful performances, and welcome, guests, to our formidable dance academy, where the echoes of centuries-old traditions intertwine with the pulse of the present. In this sacred space, we do more than just teach dance. We cultivate power, we nurture transformation, and uphold the matriarchal lineage that has guided us through time. The world beyond these walls is dominated by patriarchal structures where women are confined, controlled, and silenced. But here, within our sisterhood, we reclaim that power. Our practices are not merely superstitious, but a profound metaphor for autonomy, control, and rebellion against the forces that seek to oppress us. I, Madame Blanc, stand before you as a motherly figure, just like I do with Susie and Nina. And I ask you to let me nurture the raw potential within you. Do not be deceived by my gentle demeanour, for I have been called the seductive witch who draws you into the mysteries of our craft, and the malevolent crone who guards our secrets with fierce determination. These archetypes, mother, witch, crone, are not just roles I play, but facets of a deeper truth that we all embody. Our dance is not just an art form. Each movement, each gesture is imbued with meaning, channeling the energy of our ancestors and the spirits that guide us. Through dance, we break free from constraint. In this academy, you will learn to embrace yourself in full. You will learn to wield your power and transform yourself and those around you for the greater good. Together, we will dance the dance of defiance, of transformation, and of ultimate liberation. A word of warning, though. Within these walls, you are part of a lineage that stretches back through the ages, a lineage of powerful women who have shaped their own identities. Embrace your power, embrace your transformation, and remember that you are never alone. We are a sisterhood, bound by blood, magic, and unbreakable will. Now, weren't those performances fantastic? Bear no mind to some of the messages within. I'd like to reassure you that the terrifying moments of those monologues are entirely for dramatic effect, and definitely not warning you to run as fast as you can before we reach the end of our Academy tour today. Any questions? No? Brilliant. In that case, let's head behind the stage curtain and look at what goes on behind the scenes. As in any dance performance, the use of costume design in these films goes beyond clothing characters, but enhances the psychological journey and overall atmosphere of the stories. In Black Swan, Amy Westcott's costume design is pivotal in illustrating Nina's transformation and descent into madness. Similarly, in Suspiria's 2018 remake, Piersanti's costumes play a crucial role in establishing the film's jarring and otherworldly atmosphere. In Black Swan, Nina's white swan costume is soft, ethereal, and delicate. It's made with layers of tulle and feathers to symbolise innocence and fragility. The Black Swan costume is instead much darker, structured, and sensual, to reflect an awakening to a darker and more aggressive side of her psyche. The intricate use of texture and colour in these costumes does more than just visually differentiate the two sides of Nina's character. It amplifies her psychological transformation and makes the audience feel her internal chaos. In contrast, Suspiria is not as clear-cut as the black and white swan visual. Instead, the costumes evoke a sense of the uncanny and the sinister. The 1970s setting is meticulously captured through earthy tones, flowing fabric, and period-accurate silhouettes. The costumes are unsettling in their blend of normalcy and dread. The famous revealing crimson performance costume reflects the occult and the ritualistic elements of the story, in contrast to the muted colours and modest cuts of the Dance Academy's normal clothing. While the black and white swan provide a clear visual representation of Nina's personality split and her struggle between innocence and corruption, Suspiria's costumes provide a more subtle and insidious transformation for Susie, reflected in the gradual shift from mundane costumes to more mystical and ritualistic ones. Costume is clearly a powerful tool in the filmmaker's arsenal in both films, and I think they add a huge amount of visual depth to a story that is largely about the unseen. Turning to music, we can see the profound impact that soundtrack has had, not just to set the mood, but to deepen the emotional connection we have with the central characters. With a haunting score by Clint Mansell, Black Swan's soundtrack is based heavily on Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. It reimagines and distorts the well-known ballet soundtrack to start with familiar, elegant notes, mixed with dissonance and chaos as the film progresses. By the end of the film, the music crescendos to an almost unbearable intensity, in a way that perfectly captures Nina's complete immersion into the role of the Black Swan. The blending of Tchaikovsky's original compositions with Mansell's darker, more contemporary elements creates a hauntingly beautiful auditory experience that keeps us, the audience, on edge. Looking at the Suspiria remake, it wouldn't be a dance horror analysis without mentioning the incredible soundtrack created and composed by Tom Yorke of Radiohead. The score of this film is crucial to its unsettling atmosphere, and in my opinion, Tom Yorke was the perfect creative for this job. His score blends haunting melodies, ambient soundscapes, and unsettling electronic sounds. Unlike the usual horror scores, Yorke's music often feels more like a character in the film itself, subtly influencing the mood and tension of the story. His use of minimalist piano pieces combined with electronic distortions and vocal tracks creates a beautifully otherworld experience that carries us through the film. In Black Swan, we see the use of the classic Swan Lake piece from Tchaikovsky used as a familiar anchor from which to distort. In Suspiria, on the other hand, Tom Yorke's experimental ambience works to create a pervasive sense of unease. Both films demonstrate how music and soundtrack can profoundly enhance the narrative and emotional depth of a film. And that's all we have behind the curtain for you today. Now, before we guide you down into the lower levels, I want to offer you a chance to leave if you would like to. The finale of our tour is spectacular, but can also be overwhelming for some. So, anybody want to leave now? No? Brilliant. In that case, follow me down into the basement. As we move down to the realm where shadows dance and secrets linger, you'll notice that the building becomes more decrepit. This is the oldest part of the Academy. Here, in the heart of our tale, we will uncover the impact and legacy of Black Swan and Suspiria. The air grows thicker as we descend, each step taking us deeper into a blurring between reality and nightmare. Dreams. As you'll see, the basement is a vast, dimly lit chamber, its stone walls adorned with symbols and ancient runes. Flickering candlelight casts shadows that sometimes seem to move and breathe on their own, dancing to a silent, sinister rhythm. The scent of incense hangs heavy down here. In the centre of the room, you'll see a large, circular stone altar, surrounded by dark, hooded figures chanting. Their voices, as you can hear, rise and fall like the tides of an ocean unseen. It's in this hallowed space that we delve into the legacy of Black Swan and Suspiria. Black Swan, released in 2010, emerged as a critical and commercial triumph after its release. It captivated audiences and critics alike for its haunting portrayal of a ballerina's descent into madness. The film garnered 5 Academy Award nominations, with Natalie Portman's transformative performance as Nina earning her the Oscar for Best Actress. The film's success extended beyond awards too, with its exploration of perfection, identity, and the darker side of ambition leaving a lasting impression on the genre, and inspiring countless discussions about the psychological demands of artistic pursuit. Fast forward to 2018, and Suspiria graced the screen again as a reimagining of the '77 classic. This version delved deeper into themes of power, control, and the occult, offering a more complex narrative that intertwined historical context with supernatural terror. Though its reception was mixed, with some praising its bold departure from the original, while others lamented its slow pace, Suspiria undeniably carved its own niche and got people talking. Its legacy lies in its vision, in its challenge to audiences to embrace a new perspective on the witch's tale. In the basement, the room feels alive, pulsing with an ancient, almost sentient energy. The walls, cold and unyielding, are covered in a mosaic of images that show witches, goddesses, and deities of times gone by. Don't worry, I promise their eyes following you is nothing but an illusion. You can feel the weight of history down here too, can't you? As we stand in this darkened space, let's reflect on the films that pair perfectly with these masterpieces. For those who are intrigued by the psychological unravelling of Black Swan, we recommend exploring Perfect Blue, an anime that delves into similar themes of identity and sanity. Equally, The Red Shoes is a classic ballet film that offers a vintage look at the sacrifices demanded by art. For fans of Suspiria, the original is of course a must-watch. It's a technicolor dreamscape of horror that sets the stage for the 2018 remake. The Witch offers another exploration of feminine power and supernatural horror, while films like Hereditary look at family dynamics and occult themes. The impact and legacy of Black Swan and Suspiria stretch far and wide, their dark beauty and psychological depth inspiring both fear and fascination. These films remind us that horror is not just about what lurks in the shadows, and I promise you there is nothing lurking here, but about the shadows within us, the fears and desires that drive us to the brink. As you look around this basement, you'll hear the chanting of these hooded figures grow louder ahead of our final act. It's been a pleasure showing you around the Academy, but from here, it is best I hand over to our hosts. The sound reverberates off the walls. The flickering flames cast twisted shadows, and the air crackles with energy. Suddenly, the candles flare, casting a blinding light towards you before plunging us into darkness. The atmosphere thickens, the room is spinning, the whispers of forgotten rituals fill your mind, pulling you into a trance-like state, and then blackout. You wake up. The memory of the basement is a fading dream, its shadows lingering at the edge of your consciousness. What happened in that dark place? The echoes of Nina and Susie linger in your mind. As you try to piece together the fragments of your Academy tour, you conclude that some mysteries are best left unexplored. And there you have it. Thank you for lending me your ears and your imagination as we've gone on this extended and creative deep dive into Black Swan and Suspiria today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the films and also whether you enjoyed a little artistic license in its delivery too. Please feel free to message me on Instagram at girlhorror with a U, or drop me an email on my new sparkling email address, thegirlhorrorpodcast@gmail.com. As always, some of these topics can be very personal, so if you're talking about them, please be sensitive to the experiences and opinions of others. On our next episode, we'll be going from the toxic competitiveness of the Dance Academy to the manic May Queen selection of Ari Aster's Midsommar. I'm so excited to do an episode on this film as it's a personal favourite, so please do join me to look at sisterhood and folk horror in Midsommar in our next episode. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you're able to leave a review, that would be great, as it really helps the podcast get out there and heard by more people. Thank you again, and especially thank you for your patience with this episode. While I've been off recording ill the past couple of weeks, you can still kind of hear it in my voice. I also want to say thank you for your patience because my computer has been playing games with me, and I'm just happy this episode is finally out. So yeah, thank you so much. I will see you next time, and until then, stay girly, stay horrifying.